Bounty hunters are one of the most popular forms of alternative employment in the galaxy for beings who wish to be able to profit from their martial prowess. However, the Bounty Hunters Guild and the hunters in general have a mixed reputation in the galaxy far, far away. While their practice is perfectly legal, to the point that many governing bodies, including the Republic and the Empire, actually employ their services, they have a less than reputable track record overall. Opinion concerning bounty hunters really depends on who you ask, but it seems that if you ask Emperor Palpatine, his opinion is largely negative, to even the point of hatred. Why this is interesting is because normally, Dark Lords have always made good use of their bounty hunters, but it seems that Palpatine finds nothing from them but frustration and needless complications. So why exactly is this? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to open up yet another holocron and take a look into the mind of Darth Sidious. Before we begin though, a few bounty hunters we employed let us know that many of you who are watching have not yet subscribed, so if you enjoy these daily holocron uploads and want to be notified every time we post, be sure to blast that subscribe button and become an acolyte today. Now, let us begin. As we mentioned, one of the prime users of bounty hunters in galactic history were the Sith. In the old days, the Sith often employed bounty hunters as either extra muscle, as assassins, or as carriers of special items. The use of bounty hunters was used even more extensively during the Rule of Two era, as the Sith had to rely on them even more to go here and there, carrying out specific missions in the galaxy for them. Bounty hunters were a reliable source of labor, as they were usually confidential, flew under the radar, and possessed skills that were incredibly useful for the Sith cause. On the surface, it seems as if bounty hunting and the Sith should go hand in hand, not to mention that in the grand scheme of things, bounty hunters came as little cost to the Sith. That's not to say that the bounty hunters were cheap, as far as credits were concerned of course, as it was not financially convenient to have bounty hunters do your work. However, most Sith Lords were men and women with prominence and of high social status. Therefore, money was no object, and if all it took was a pile of credits to get what they wanted, and to have the hunter keep quiet, then so be it. The use of bounty hunters matriculated down through the Rule of Two, and continued to be an even more convenient solution, being such as Darth Tenebris, a successful engineering CEO, Plagueis, who was the chairman of the intergalactic banking clan, and of course Sidious, head of the prestigious Palpatine family, were all independently wealthy, which made it easy to fund their escapades under the table. Out of all of the Sith we mentioned though, Sidious would need the hunters the most, considering it was the final hours until the revenge of the Sith, and Sidious was stretching his underground network of contacts to its very limit in order to make sure everything was running smoothly. We have seen Palpatine use bounty hunters before, such as in the case of Cad Bane during the holocron heist and the Force-sensitive youngling caper for the experiments of Mustafar. This was a mostly successful mission. However, since then, we don't often see Sidious actually using bounty hunters personally. More often than not, if he needed something done, he would simply send his underlings to the task to do it, rather than interact with an outsourced contractor. So why exactly is this? What changed in Sidious and his method? For one thing, bounty hunters were incredibly skilled, but even the best were far from perfect. Cad Bane, for example, one of the greatest bounty hunters ever, left a breadcrumb trail that led him back to his hideout where the Jedi were able to track him. Not to mention, he also succumbed to interrogation and was forced to reveal what he was doing. Simply put, bounty hunters themselves were loose ends, and Sidious could not afford to be constantly trying to assist them every time one of them got caught, or assassinate them every time they had finished their work. Tying up loose ends made Darth Sidious extremely angry, as it was horrifically risky. During the Clone Wars, of course, Sidious's identity was of the utmost importance, and therefore, for Sidious to ever use a bounty hunter personally was of huge risk to him. However, the most important reason that Sidious continued to dislike interacting with bounty hunters, even into the Imperial Age, comes from his notes in the Book of the Sith. In Sidious's chapter, he was mentioning how he originally wanted to make a lot of use out of the Outer Rim crime families and the Bounty Hunters Guild, but in the margins, Sidious made a note that says the following: "In the years since I first recorded these thoughts, I have come to despise the Bounty Hunters Guild. Boba Fett and those like him can be unpredictable to the point of exasperation, Count Dooku and Lord Vader have made intelligent use of these bandits, but I will not. Here, Sidious mentions that he does not like the unpredictability of a bounty hunter, specifically naming Boba Fett. In one of the worst instances, Boba Fett not only went completely against Vader's orders, but actually fought him one-on-one on Mustafar over the cargo that he was transporting. This is of course from Legends. Even though Boba lost, it was not without being able to make a grand escape. And this is just one instance of Boba's tumultuous time working with the Empire, proving himself to be an unpredictable liability. But this brings us to our next interesting point. Sidious mentions that so far, only Vader and Dooku really made good use of bounty hunters. This is of course true, as Dooku employed Jango Fett and Zam Wesell prior to the Clone Wars. In fact, Dooku was very fond of bounty hunters, and he used them just about whenever he could during the war. He's worked with bounty hunters such as Bok's Ark, when Dooku worked through Moran Olival and Cad Bane to set up a team of ruthless and skilled bounty hunters to help him kidnap the Chancellor. Vader himself was fond on using bounty hunters much in the same way whenever there was a matter that was either too trivial for him to deal with himself, or was too difficult for Imperial intelligence to navigate by themselves. Of course, a good example of this would be when Vader hired bounty hunters to track down the Millennium Falcon, including Boba. This is the fundamental difference between Sidious and the other two Sith Lords. Once he became Emperor, Sidious only thought in terms of controlling people by fear, and believed that bounty hunters should consider it their honor and pleasure to serve their Emperor. Unfortunately, that's just not how the underworld of the galaxy runs though, and if you squeeze a bounty hunter too hard with the fear factor, they tend to act out and cause problems. Betrayal is far more likely. Vader and Dooku understood this, which is why they mostly took the angle of enticement and incentivizing their hunters while simply sprinkling in the fear factor. With lots of rewards, they could lock down the hunter's services and loyalty, but with the underlying fear factor, they could ensure that the hunters respected their authority and were going to do everything they could to ensure their mission was a success. It's a delicate balance, one that Sidious isn't ignorant of, but one that he likely just does not have the patience for. Sidious views himself so superior to the bounty hunters, especially once he became the Emperor, that he simply no longer wished to deal with them. What began as an inconvenience and a worry at first grew into a pure, undying hatred. Sidious praises Vader and Dooku's use of bounty hunters, which means that he doesn't disapprove of their use period, just that he despises having to work with them directly. But anyway, my friends, this is why Sidious despised and hated bounty hunters. But tell us your thoughts and opinions on this in the comments down below. And are you surprised by this at all? As always, my friends and acolytes of the Force, reach out and crush that subscribe button. It is your destiny.